Hey, I'm Rebecca Hale. I'm a pediatric physical therapist and I help people find comfort in their own shell using movement and helping people understand their physiology better so that they can show up comfortable and um, in the best way possible. Today, I want to talk about emotional neglect, and this has been an evolving experience for me. As a kid, I dealt with a childhood trauma that I suppressed and I didn't know about for many, many years. And it surfaced through very strange behaviors that many of my friends and my family didn't understand. And I didn't understand, but so later in life, when I discovered that, I started to look at all of the way I showed up in relationships and um, meaning romantic relationships, relationships with my parents, relationships with my own children. And the topic of emotional neglect really came in. As a kid, I have very loving parents who, thank God, because they're very supportive. And I'm not sure I would have survived the last 44 years without the foundation that they had. For my kids, because I had had a trauma, I was emotionally neglectful at times with my kids. I wouldn't have said that, and many of my friends would say, "No, that's crazy. You do everything for your kids." But I did not have the capacity to be nurturing, physically nurturing to my kids. I hugged them, but not um, looking back, not in the way that mothers are really maternal. I was in survival mode for a majority of my raising of them. And so they went through having to heal as I went through healing and understanding how emotionally detached I have been. and and what that looks like and why many of my friendships and relationships were so distant and I really didn't connect with people. It was a safety mechanism and I honor it and I will never put myself down now for the way that things unfolded. And luckily for me and my children, they are very comfortable with having these conversations. And so we've done a lot of healing together. And they, I believe, feel very supported by me now. And we have a much more cohesive and supportive um, relationship. I think they always felt like I was there for them. But the physiological components of nurturing from a mother when the mother is detached and not fully present is real. And oftentimes, I know for myself, the way that I managed it back then, and I didn't know I was doing that, was I would um, fight for the help that they needed. It was more of a survival mechanism. So when they needed support at school and things weren't going, I became a very loud advocate for them to have the support. And oftentimes the school would say, "Oh, I don't think that they need that support," or um, what have you. And I just knew that they did. And what I know now is what they needed was the nurturing that was not I did not have the capacity to give at the time. Um, and luckily, a few teachers and paraprofessionals crossed my children's paths over the years, and friends who stepped up, and my parents, thank God, uh, were nurturing, emotionally nurturing people when I couldn't be. And so they filled the gaps. And I see that a lot with the kids that I work with, where there's parents that are completely, whether they had a trauma or not, is not necessary to know. But when you see a depleted mother who is pulled in 100 directions and not making ends meet or doing 3 jobs and then can't come home to be nurturing to their kids. They're at their wits' end, they're doing their best. And so I see that a lot. And so many of the things that I do with kids is helping support the children and helping the parents to understand that, recognizing that you're doing the best you can, not putting them down for not stepping up and doing the things they need to be doing. Because sometimes they have no idea. I had no idea, and I was in the industry. But it wasn't a conversation that people were having back then. And still now, I think it's a touchy subject, but I think it's a conversation that really needs to be had because it's happening a lot out there right now in the time of COVID, where people have lost jobs and children aren't leaving their homes at all. It's very different for different communities. The community that I work in is inner city, and many of my students that I work with haven't left their homes in 8 months. And so there's a piece of that that's traumatic. And not having the things that you need don't always allow you to then do the physiological, emotional, supportive things that kids need. It is secondary to having food and having shelter, but it is necessary for growth and for your body to be able to tap into its physiology to show up. So that's just touching on it, and is something I'm going to keep unpackaging on my page to share my personal experience and to help support people with this component and some of the tools that I've used over the years to heal and to really step fully back into a whole person, fully in my body, being able to experience life and being able to show up fully in relationship with my kids and my parents and my sister and my friends and my relationships.